There is a particular hour when you open your eyes in the dark and the worry is already waiting for you, fully formed, before you can remember why. It feels like something is wrong with you, lying awake, while the rest of the house sleeps. But sleep science has a quieter explanation. The mind does its hardest emotional sorting in the hours when nothing else is asking for your attention. Why does fear always feel bigger at 2 a.m? Here is the part most people never hear. Your brain did not wake you to punish you. It surfaced the feeling because, in the deep stillness, there was finally room for it to rise. Welcome to Sleepy Science. So nothing has gone wrong tonight. The thing you woke to is not a threat. It is something unfinished, asking only to be felt for a moment, in the dark. The quiet around you is so complete that even your own heartbeat sounds far away. Somewhere beneath your awareness, the mind is holding what the busy day kept pushing aside, turning it over with a patience the daylight never allows. You do not have to fix it, or name it, or chase it back into sleep. You only have to let it be here, the way the night lets the stillness be. And the very question that woke you is the one we follow now, gently, into the dark. Underneath everything we explore tonight rests one quiet question. Why does fear always feel bigger at 2 a.m? You may have lived this without ever naming it. The room is dark, the house is still, and a worry that seemed manageable by day suddenly fills the whole ceiling. Sleep scientists have noticed something gentle and strange here. The hour itself does not create the fear. Your body, moving through its nightly architecture, simply removes the things that used to hold the fear at a smaller size. Daylight, noise, movement, and company all shrink worry without your effort. In the deep middle of the night, those quiet helpers fall away, and what remains feels enormous. We begin not with the worry, but with the clock inside you. Your sleep is not one long, flat stretch of unconsciousness. It is built in repeating cycles, each one lasting roughly 90 minutes from beginning to end. Within every cycle, your brain moves through lighter stages, then descends into slow, deep sleep, then rises again toward dreaming. Across a full night, you complete about 4 to 6 of these gentle loops. Picture them as soft waves rolling onto a shore, each one cresting and falling in its own time. You are never simply asleep in a single fixed way. You are traveling through a layered landscape, sinking and surfacing, again and again. Understanding this shape is the first step toward understanding why the early hours can feel so different from the rest. The first half of your night belongs mostly to deep sleep. Sleep scientists call it slow-wave sleep, named for the long, rolling brain waves that appear during it. This is the heaviest, most restorative part of rest, the stage that is hardest to wake from. Your body concentrates this deep sleep early, in the first few cycles, after you drift off, it is as if your system pays its largest debts first, while the night is young. By the time the clock approaches 2 in the morning, most of that deep, anchoring sleep is already behind you. What lies ahead is lighter, more fragile, and far easier to slip out of. That shift in the night's structure quietly sets the stage for everything that follows. As the night moves on, the balance inside your sleep changes. The deep, heavy stages grow shorter, and a different kind of sleep grows longer. This is REM sleep, the stage most closely tied to vivid dreaming, when your eyes move quickly beneath closed lids. The longest, richest REM periods arrive in the second half of the night, often clustering in the hours surrounding 2 and 3 in the morning. During REM, your brain becomes remarkably active, almost as awake as it is during the day. The line between deep rest and waking grows thin here. This is one reason the early morning is a natural doorway out of sleep, a place where surfacing happens easily and often. Here is something that surprises many people. Waking briefly during the night is completely normal. Sleep scientists have found that healthy sleepers stir many times before morning, usually without remembering it at all. These brief surfacings happen at the seams between sleep cycles, when one 90-minute loop ends and another begins. Most of the time, you turn over, settle, and sink back down within seconds. The waking that troubles you is not a flaw in your sleep. It is a built-in feature, an ancient pause woven into the rhythm of every night. The difference at 2 in the morning is not that you wake. It is that, this time, something keeps you from drifting easily back into the dark. Deep inside, your brain sits a tiny cluster of cells that acts as your body's master clock. It is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it is smaller than a grain of rice. From this quiet center, your body keeps time across the full 24-hour day. It tells your temperature when to fall, your hormones when to rise, and your alertness when to fade. This internal rhythm is called your circadian clock, from Latin words meaning about a day. It runs even in total darkness, even without a watch nearby. The waking you feel at 2 in the morning is not random. It is the gentle pressure of this ancient timekeeper, turning its hands in places you cannot see, shaping the texture of every single hour. Your body temperature is not constant through the night. It follows a slow, predictable curve set by your internal clock. As evening arrives, your core temperature begins to drop, a quiet signal that helps you fall asleep. Through the night it keeps falling, sinking lower and lower, until it reaches its very lowest point in the early hours before dawn. For most people, that low point lands somewhere around 4 in the morning, drawing near in the hours after 2. A cooler body is part of how deep sleep is protected. But as your temperature bottoms out, your sleep also grows lighter and more easily disturbed. The chill of the deep night is not only in the air around you, it is moving quietly within you. When darkness falls, a small gland near the center of your brain begins releasing a hormone called melatonin. It is often called the hormone of darkness because light suppresses it and night sets it free. Melatonin does not knock you out like a sedative. Instead, it whispers to your body that the time for rest has come, lowering your guard and easing you towards sleep. Its levels climb through the evening and peak in the deep middle of the night, often around 2 to 4 in the morning. So at the very hour worry feels largest, your melatonin is near its height, gently holding you towards sleep. The pull to rest is strong here. Yet something in the mind can still resist that quiet tide. There is another chemical pressure shaping your night, separate from your clock. Sleep scientists call it sleep pressure, and it builds the longer you stay awake. A molecule named adenosine slowly gathers in your brain across the day, making you feel heavier and sleepier as evening comes. While you sleep, your body clears this molecule away, like a tide washing a beach clean. By the early hours of the morning, much of that pressure has already been spent. You have slept off a large share of your tiredness, with less weight pulling you down toward unconsciousness. Your sleep naturally grows lighter and easier to break. The early morning is simply a time when the force that once held you under has quietly begun to loosen its grip. Now, the question we opened begins to turn. If your deep sleep finishes early, your temperature bottoms out, and your sleep pressure fades. Then, by 2 in the morning, your body is in its lightest, most wakeful state of the whole night. The waking itself is not the mystery. The mystery is why the mind, finding itself briefly awake in the dark, reaches for fear instead of calm. The body clock has prepared the doorway. It has thinned the walls of sleep and brought you near the surface. What walks through that doorway is something else entirely. The hours have made you easy to wake. The next stretch of our journey follows what your waking mind does once the night has set the stage. There is a reason the 2 o'clock hour, in particular, feels like a hollow in the night. It sits in the deep trough of your circadian rhythm, the long stretch when your internal clock pushes hardest toward sleep and lowest toward alertness. Sleep scientists sometimes call this the circadian nadir, the bottom of the daily wave. Your reaction times, your body heat, and your sense of steadiness are all near their lowest. If you wake here, you wake into a body that is not built for action. It is built for stillness and surrender. That mismatch, a mind switched on inside a body, tuned for the depths, is part of why these hours feel so strange, so heavy, and so unlike the daytime, you know. Light is the single most powerful signal your body clock uses to keep time. Special cells in your eyes, separate from the ones you see with sense, brightness, and reported directly to your master clock. During the day, light streaming in tells your brain that it is time to be alert and awake. In the deep middle of the night, that signal is gone. There is no dawn to anchor you, no brightness to announce that the world has returned. Your clock sits in its darkest, most inward phase, waking into that pure darkness. With no light to orient you, your brain has few reminders that morning is coming. The absence of light is not empty. It shapes how the waking mind reads the hour around it. Your nervous system has two great branches that balance each other through the day and night. One readies you for action, quickening the heart and sharpening the senses. The other calms you, slowing the heart and inviting rest. Through the early, deepest part of sleep, the calming branch tends to lead, holding your body in soft stillness. But as the night thins toward morning and REM sleep lengthens, that balance grows less steady. Your heart rate and breathing can become more variable, rising and dipping in ways they do not during deep sleep. If you wake during one of these less settled stretches, your body may already be slightly stirred. You surface not into perfect calm, but into a system that has begun to shift its weight. A hormone called cortisol moves through your blood in a rhythm tied to your clock, and its pattern matters greatly for the early hours. Cortisol helps prepare your body to wake and meet the day, lifting alertness and energy. Its levels are lowest in the first part of the night, around the time you fall asleep. Then, in the hours before dawn, cortisol begins a slow, natural climb that will peak shortly after you rise. That climb often starts well before you intend to wake, building quietly in the 2 and 3 o'clock hours. So as you near these times, a waking hormone is already rising inside you. The body is leaning toward morning, long before the sky shows any sign of it. The rise of cortisol before dawn is so reliable that scientists have given it a name: the cortisol awakening response. It is a gentle surge meant to ease you from sleep toward wakefulness, a chemical sunrise inside the body. In a calm night, you never notice it at work. But if you happen to wake while this surge is climbing, you meet a body that is already being primed for alertness. Your heart may feel a touch quicker, your mind a touch sharper than rest would suggest. None of this is alarm. It is simply preparation. Yet a mind freshly woken in the dark can mistake that natural readiness for something more urgent. The body is only doing what every morning asks of it, a little ahead of schedule. Not all sleep is equally deep, and the lightest stages live close to the edge of waking. Sleep scientists describe the earliest stage as a drifting threshold, where you are neither fully asleep nor truly awake. As the night wears on and deep sleep grows scarce, you spend more of your time in these lighter stages and in dreaming REM. Both sit near the surface of consciousness. A small sound, a shift in temperature, a turn of the body, any of these can lift you out. This is why the same noise that never stirs you at 10 at night can wake you instantly at 2. You are simply floating closer to the top, where the slightest ripple can break through into waking. The journey from deep sleep up into waking is not instant, and that in-between state has its own quiet weight. As you rise through the stages, your brain shifts gradually from slow, heavy rhythms toward faster, more alert ones. For a short while, parts of your mind may be awake while others linger in sleep. In this blurred zone, thoughts can feel disconnected and strangely vivid. Time can seem to stretch or fold. If you surface here, in the early hours, you may find your mind half dreaming and half thinking at once. The clear, organized thinking you trust by day has not fully returned. It is a tender, unguarded place, a borderland between two states, and worry can slip in easily before the daylight mind awakens. Your circadian clock does not only govern sleep and waking, it quietly tunes nearly every system in your body to the hour of the day. Digestion, alertness, mood, even the speed of your reflexes, all rise and fall on this daily wave. In the deep hours of the night, almost every one of these systems is dialed down to its lowest setting. Your body is, by design, at its least equipped to manage stress or effort. So when you wake at 2 in the morning, you are not only awake at an unusual hour, you are awake inside a body that has lowered nearly all its defenses for the night. The ground you stand on is the softest and least steady of the entire day. Across the night, a quiet housekeeping process unfolds inside your brain. During deep sleep especially, fluid moves through the spaces between brain cells, gently clearing away the byproducts that built up during the day. Sleep scientists have called this a kind of overnight rinse, a slow tide that keeps the mind clean and clear. This clearing depends on the deep, slow-wave sleep that fills the early part of your night. By the early morning hours, much of that work is already done. The brain you wake into at 2 is no longer in its heaviest restorative phase. It has finished the deepest part of its quiet labor and risen into lighter, more wakeful territory, closer than ever to the surface of the day. The hours around 2 and 3 in the morning are sometimes described, across many cultures, as a kind of empty hour. Old traditions noticed that people often stirred then, long before anyone understood the science beneath it. We now know there is nothing mystical at work, only the steady mechanics of the body clock. Your deepest sleep is spent, your temperature is near its floor, and your waking chemistry is beginning to stir. The fascination of older stories was pointing, in its own way, towards something real. This stretch of night truly is a threshold. It is the hinge between the deepest rest and the slow return toward day, a natural pause that nearly every sleeping body passes through. Your individual clock is not identical to everyone else's. Some people are wired to fall asleep early and wake early, while others lean late in both directions. Scientists call these tendencies your chronotype, and they are shaped partly by your genes. Yet across nearly all chronotypes, the core pattern of the night holds. Deep sleep gathers early, temperature falls toward a pre-dawn low, and REM sleep stretches longest in the hours before morning. So, the same vulnerable window appears for almost everyone, simply shifted a little earlier or later on the clock. The 2 o'clock waking is so common because it falls, for so many bodies, right inside that shared and tender stretch of the night where sleep grows thinnest. Age gently reshapes the architecture of your sleep over a lifetime. As people grow older, deep, slow-wave sleep tends to shrink, and sleep becomes lighter and more broken. Brief night wakings grow more frequent and more noticeable with the passing years. This is a natural change, not a failure of rest. But it means that the tender, easily disturbed stretch of the early morning can widen with age. More of the night is spent close to the surface, where waking happens readily. Understanding this can soften the worry itself. The 2 o'clock waking, for many, is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the quiet signature of a sleeping body doing exactly what time and biology have shaped it to do. There is a gentle truth in all of this that deserves to be heard plainly. The waking you experience at 2 in the morning is, in the deepest sense, ordinary. Your body has spent its heavy sleep, cooled to its lowest point, and risen into the lightest, most wakeful chapter of the night. Surfacing here is not a malfunction. It is the natural shape of a night running exactly as it was built to run. Sleep scientists see this same pattern in healthy sleepers everywhere. The clock inside you has simply opened a familiar doorway, the same one it opens night after night. What feels frightening is not the waking itself, but the silence and stillness you wake into. Here the question begins to settle into a clearer shape. We started by asking why fear feels bigger at 2 in the morning, and the body has given us half the answer. By this hour, every quiet helper that keeps worry small has stepped away. There is no daylight, no movement, no voice, no task. There is only a mind, briefly awake, inside a body tuned entirely for stillness. The fear is not larger because the threat is larger. It is larger because the room around it has emptied. The night did not invent the worry. It simply removed everything that used to stand beside it. What remains for us to follow is how the waking mind fills that emptiness. Right now, your body is moving through exactly the stretch we have been describing. Your core temperature is near its quiet floor, lower than it was when you first lay down, lowering still without any effort from you. The melatonin we spoke of is near its height, in you this very moment, gently asking your body to stay. You do not have to make any of this happen. It is already happening, the way the tide does not need to be told when to turn. The question we have been holding, about why the dark feels so large, lives in this exact stillness. Not in any danger nearby, but in how empty the night has become around your waking mind. Notice the quiet. Notice that nothing in this room is actually asking anything of you. Let your breath lengthen, just slightly. The body has finished its heaviest work for the night. What comes next moves us from the clock toward the mind it wakes. So the body has set the entire stage. By 2 in the morning, your deepest sleep is behind you. Your temperature has sunk toward its lowest point. Your sleep pressure has thinned, and your waking chemistry has quietly begun to rise. You float in the lightest, most easily broken part of the night. Inside, a body lowered to its gentlest setting. Every condition for an easy waking is in place, and so the waking comes. Yet none of this, on its own, explains the fear. The clock has only opened the door and emptied the room. What steps through that open door? What the unguarded mind does in that silence is where our journey turns next. The body brought you here. Now we follow the mind. You've been with us for a while now, and your breathing has likely softened without you noticing. A soft subscribe helps another sleepless mind find this sanctuary too. Now, let's pause together, one sleepy soul at a time. When you wake at 2 in the morning with your heart already racing, the alarm did not start in your thinking mind. It started deeper, in a small almond-shaped cluster called the amygdala. This is your brain's threat detector, and at night, it grows louder. Studies of the sleeping brain show the amygdala stays active during certain sleep stages, scanning for danger even while the rest of you rests. In the quiet dark, with no daylight tasks to occupy you, its signals have nothing to compete with. So, a worry that felt small at noon can arrive at 2 in the morning feeling larger than it did by day, even though nothing in the room has changed. The size is borrowed from the hour. There is a part of your brain that usually keeps the amygdala in check, the way a calm hand steadies a startled animal. It is the prefrontal cortex, sitting just behind your forehead. During the day, it weighs evidence, reasons through fear, and reminds you that most worries never come true. But research on sleep shows this region quiets down considerably at night, especially in the deeper stages. With the steadying hand resting, the threat detector speaks without correction. This is one reason fear feels bigger at 2 in the morning. The voice that argues back has simply gone offline for a while. Scientists describe daytime calm as top-down control. Your higher reasoning sits on top, gently managing the older, faster emotional systems below. It is a quiet collaboration you rarely notice while it works. At night, that balance shifts. The prefrontal cortex loosens its grip, and the emotional centers below gain influence. Brain imaging studies have found weaker communication between these regions during sleep and in the moments around waking. So when you stir at 2 in the morning, you are meeting your fear with fewer of your usual mental tools. The same thought, processed without that calm oversight, simply feels heavier and harder to set down. Your body keeps a chemical schedule, even while you sleep. One of its most important signals is cortisol, often called the stress hormone, though it does far more than signal stress. Cortisol follows a daily rhythm, dipping low in the late evening and then beginning a slow, steady climb through the second half of the night. Researchers call the sharpest part of this rise the cortisol awakening response. By the early morning hours, your levels are already climbing toward their morning peak. So part of why fear feels bigger at 2 in the morning is simple chemistry. Your body has quietly begun preparing to wake, and that preparation can feel like alarm. Cortisol is not your enemy. It is the hormone that helps you rise, focus, and meet the coming day with energy. The trouble is timing. When its natural climb wakes you before you are ready, your mind looks around for a reason to feel alert. Finding none in the dark room, it sometimes reaches for a worry instead. Sleep scientists have noted that elevated nighttime cortisol is linked with more fragmented, lighter sleep. So the hormone meant to greet your morning can, at 2 in the morning, feel like a false alarm. Your chemistry is doing its job a little early, and your thoughts rush in to explain the feeling. There is another quiet rhythm at work in the deep night. Your blood sugar. Hours have passed since your last meal, and during the long fast of sleep, your glucose levels gradually drift downward. For most people, this is harmless and goes unnoticed. But a dip can nudge the body toward releasing adrenaline and cortisol to lift sugar back up. Those same hormones sharpen alertness and can quicken the heart. Researchers studying nighttime waking have pointed to these gentle metabolic dips as one possible trigger. So the unease you feel at 2 in the morning may begin not in your thoughts at all, but in the slow, ordinary chemistry of an empty stomach. Adrenaline, also called epinephrine, is the body's fastest messenger of arousal. It can flood your system in seconds, widening your eyes, speeding your pulse, and tensing your muscles before you have formed a single conscious thought. At night, small surges of adrenaline can accompany the natural shifts between sleep stages or a brief metabolic dip. When you wake into one of these surges, your body is already primed for action with nowhere to go. Lying still in a dark room, you feel the physical signs of urgency without any visible cause. The mind, searching for meaning, often hands that urgency to a fear that was waiting nearby. Deep inside your nervous system lives an ancient pairing, two branches that govern how aroused or calm you feel. One branch, the sympathetic system, prepares you for fight or flight. The other, the parasympathetic system, restores you toward rest and repair. Through most of healthy sleep, the restful branch leads, slowing the heart and softening the breath. But research shows that brief awakenings, stress, or a hormone surge can tip the balance toward the alert branch for a moment. When you wake at 2 in the morning with that wired, watchful feeling, you may simply be catching your nervous system mid-shift, leaning briefly toward readiness instead of rest. The fight-or-flight response evolved to save lives, not to ruin sleep. For our distant ancestors, waking suddenly alert in the dark could mean the difference between noticing a real danger and missing it. The system was tuned to err on the side of caution, to treat ambiguity as possible threat. That inheritance still lives in you. Sleep researchers point out that this ancient wiring does not know the difference between a predator and an unpaid bill. So at 2 in the morning, a modern worry can borrow an old survival circuit. Your body responds as if something must be done right now, even when nothing in the room has changed. Heart rate is one of the clearest windows into this nighttime arousal. During calm, deep sleep, your pulse slows and grows wonderfully, even, a sign the restful branch of your nervous system is in charge. But a sudden waking, a hormone surge, or a dip in blood sugar can quicken it. You feel the quickened beat in your chest, and the sensation itself becomes frightening. Researchers note a feedback loop here. The racing heart signals danger to the brain. The brain releases more arousal chemicals, and the heart races faster still. At 2 in the morning, this gentle loop can spin a small unease into something that feels much larger. Your breath, too, follows the state of your nervous system. In deep rest, breathing slows and deepens, drawing the body further toward calm. But when arousal rises in the night, breathing often quickens and grows shallow, sometimes before you are even fully awake. This faster breathing can lower carbon dioxide in the blood, producing lightheadedness or a faint tingling that the anxious mind reads as one more sign of threat. Sleep scientists describe how this links body and fear into a single, rising spiral. The reassuring part is that breath is also a doorway out, one of the few arousal signals you can gently slow on purpose. There is a reason the same thought feels manageable by day and overwhelming by night. During waking hours, your brain processes fear with the full chorus of its regions working together, reasoning, comparing, reassuring. In the half-lit space of a 2 in the morning waking, that chorus is thinned. The emotional centers are loud. The reasoning centers are dim. And stress chemistry is quietly rising. Researchers have found that emotional reactivity tends to increase when sleep is disrupted or incomplete. So the fear has not actually grown. What has changed is the balance of the mind receiving it, leaving you to feel a familiar worry without your familiar defenses. The dark itself plays a subtle role. Your brain evolved to associate darkness with vulnerability, when our ancestors could not see what moved beyond the firelight. Even now, with melatonin rising and the world hushed, the absence of light and sound, removes the everyday distractions that keep daytime worries small. There is nothing to look at, no task to begin, no conversation to interrupt the mind. So attention turns inward, and whatever feeling is present fills the available space. Sleep researchers describe this as a kind of sensory quiet, in which internal signals grow louder. The 2 a.m. fear is partly a fear with nothing else to compete against. Memory behaves differently in the deep night as well. As you drift between sleep stages, your brain is busy sorting and consolidating the day's emotional experiences, replaying fragments that still carry unresolved charge. If you wake during this process, those very fragments may be near the surface, half-formed and emotionally vivid. This is partly why nighttime worries can feel oddly specific, yet strangely irrational at once. Researchers studying emotional memory during sleep suggest the brain is doing important repair work in these hours. The discomfort you feel may be the edge of that repair, an unfinished feeling caught mid-processing, rather than a true emergency demanding your attention. Gather these threads, and the picture grows clear. At 2 a.m, your threat detector runs loud. Your calm reasoning runs quiet. Cortisol and adrenaline climb. Blood sugar dips. And an ancient survival system stands ready in the dark. None of these signals is broken. Each is your body following its nightly schedule with quiet precision. The fear is not bigger because the danger is real. It is bigger because your subconscious is processing the day's unfinished feelings during the hours you finally stopped distracting it. What wakes you at 2 a.m. is not a warning about the world. It is your inner life, asking gently to be felt. The night is still soft around you, and your thoughts may be drifting somewhere between question and rest. There is nothing here that needs solving. Let your shoulders ease away from your ears. Take one slow breath and let it leave you a little more slowly than it came. We have been wandering together through the anxious brain at night, asking why fear feels so much larger in the dark. Not to fix it, only to understand it. Gently, the way you might study the shape of a shadow until it stops frightening you. There is no rush and no destination. We'll keep going, slowly. The quiet hours change how your brain handles unfinished feelings. During the day, your thinking mind keeps emotions at arm's length, busy with tasks and noise. But late at night, the prefrontal cortex, the part that reasons and reassures, naturally lowers its activity as you drift towards sleep. With that gentle dimming, the emotional centers below it, especially the amygdala, gain a little more room to speak. So the worry that felt manageable at noon can feel suddenly larger at 2 a.m. Not because the danger grew, but because the part of you that usually softens it has stepped back to rest. The fear hasn't changed. The hands holding it have simply loosened their grip in the dark. Your subconscious does some of its most important work while you sleep, sorting through the emotions, you didn't have time to feel. Neuroscientists describe this as overnight emotional memory consolidation. During the night, the brain revisits the day's experiences, deciding what to keep, what to soften, and what to let fade. The events stay in memory, but their sharp emotional edges are gradually filed down. This is why a painful moment often feels less raw after a good night's rest. Yet when this process is interrupted, when you wake in the middle of the night, you can catch the machinery mid-task, holding a feeling that hasn't yet been smoothed. You are simply meeting your own mind at work. REM sleep, the stage when most vivid dreaming happens, plays a special role in calming your emotions. Researchers have found that during REM, the brain processes emotional memories, while the stress chemical noradrenaline drops to its lowest level of the entire day. In a sense, your mind replays difficult moments in a chemically gentler environment, like reviewing a hard conversation in a room that has finally gone quiet. This allows the memory to remain while its sting is eased. When REM is cut short by waking, that soothing chemistry is missing. The same memory can surface without its nighttime calm, which is part of why feelings can seem unusually intense in those still, dark hours. Around 2 in the morning, your body sits near the bottom of its temperature and cortisol cycle, a naturally low and vulnerable point. Cortisol, the hormone that helps you feel alert and steady, is at its lowest in the deep night before beginning to rise again toward dawn. With less of that steadying chemistry available, small worries can feel strangely heavy. Your subconscious, freed from daytime distraction, drifts toward whatever remains unresolved. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the quiet honesty of a body at rest, briefly without its usual armor. And like the tide, this low point is temporary. Already, somewhere inside, the rising has begun. When you wake in the night with a racing mind, you may be caught in what scientists call a rumination loop. This is the subconscious replaying a worry again and again, searching for a solution that the quiet hours cannot provide. The brain's threat detection system, sensitive and ancient, treats an unresolved feeling like an open door it cannot close. So it returns to it, circling. During the day, activity breaks these loops naturally. At night, with nothing to interrupt the circling, the same thought can spin freely. Understanding this can soften it. The loop is not truth repeating itself. It is simply a tired mind, reaching for an answer in a place where rest, not answers, is what waits. What you just heard, that the mind circles a worry in the dark, not because it is right, but because it cannot find a door to close, may be sitting in your chest right now. Notice it without trying to solve it. Let the circling slow on its own, the way a wheel slows when no one is turning it. You don't have to finish the thought tonight. The quiet is not waiting for an answer from you. The second half of these hours leans gently away from the question and toward the rest underneath it. Let your shoulders soften. Let the breath grow a little longer.